welcome to this week's episode of the Live Conversations. This program is brought to you by the Contact Center Association of Zimbabwe, which is the leading voice in advocating for great customer experience, service excellence, as well as service delivery. I'm your host, Carol Konje, and as usual, we bring in different customer experience experts into the studio to discuss more of these issues. And today, I'm joined by Mr. Joel Gombera. He is the General Manager Marketing for Doves Holdings. He is a seasoned marketer with experience of over a decade in the marketing industry. Mr. Joel, thank you so much for joining us today.
Afternoon, Carol. Thank you for inviting me.
How is it at Doves Holdings?
No, it's progressing well. Yes, thank you so much.
All right, let's just get into our program, and today we are discussing corporate public image. I'm sure it's a very broad topic.
Yes.
Yeah. So what is corporate public image in your own view?
Thank you, Carol. It's basically the sum total of the perception that individuals or a certain target market has got over a company or a brand. So it's basically how the public views the company, what goes on in the mind of those that interact with the brand or the company. Yes.
And why is it important?
It's critical because if you look at consumers, if you look at our customers want to do business with a brand that they feel good about. If I think of brand Coca-Cola, it's a brand that makes me feel happy. It's a feel-good kind of brand, and when I consume their product, it's that feeling that I'm supposed to have, that I'm interacting with a feel-good brand. I should be excited about consuming that product that they are producing. So basically, it's critical that we have a positive brand image, such that when our customers or consumers interact with our brand, they trust it. They're excited to interact with it. They're not doing it because it's the only option available, but rather they are really passionate about the brand, and they can actually share testimonies and share good stories around the brand. So how a brand is perceived has got a bearing on the bottom line. The more positive sentiments around a brand, the more in terms of bottom line, the repeat sales, the repeat business emanates from that feel good about a certain brand. Yes.
Okay, so how is it critical in an organization, corporate public image? How is it critical?
For me, it's actually a portfolio where you actually need certain individuals or an individual that looks after your brand. I know normally in companies it falls under the corporate affairs office or the PR office or the communications office. So it's critical that you actually have a resource person that is critically analyzing how your brand is perceived. Right now we are in a digital era, so obviously it has to be omni-channel in terms of your walk-in clients. How do they feel about the brand? So feedback is critical. So you're looking at even on digital platforms, your online platforms, your social media platforms, any platform that your customers can interact with your brand. They need to be managed, they need to be monitored. Right now there are a lot of tools, online reputation management tools that you can be able to utilize. In my career, we've utilized certain platforms where we can be able to gauge in terms of how our brand is performing in terms of perception. Is there any goodwill around the brand? Are people talking about our brand? Which are the spaces that people are talking about our brand, and how can we get into those spaces and also control the narrative and project a positive image around our brand? So it's critical that this is looked as a standalone portfolio that actually needs resourcing, that needs monitoring in terms of how people are perceiving your brand, because they can make or break your business. Yes.
All right. So you mentioned the issue of digital era,
Yes.
digitalization. So do you think organizations are doing justice to digitalization now in Zimbabwe?
Okay, obviously, if you look at it from a global perspective, yes, definitely there's a lot of traction around that area. In Zimbabwe, I believe that companies are beginning to wake up to that phenomenon in terms of managing your online reputation. So you find a lot of companies are investing in these media monitoring tools and engaging resources that can be able to monitor those. Some it falls within maybe a marketing department as a portfolio. Some outsource that service from online or PR reputation management companies. So I believe in Zimbabwe, yes, we are making traction. There is more that can be done in terms of monitoring our perception as we build out to building that customer experience that can be able to help us grow our business. So there has been some traction, but a lot still needs to be done, across various sectors for us to be able to progress. Yes.
All right. So in your own opinion, please tell us why you think corporate reputation should be looked at from both internal and external side, where perceived value and service quality are concerned.
In terms of your corporate reputation, is building definitely internally and externally. If you look at the internal stuff, I believe for any company that is operating, your greatest brand ambassador is your employee. So every employee is duty bound in terms of maintaining the corporate reputation. That's why you see if there's a scandal, in terms of the tabloids, we've got a lot of tabloids that break, what is happening in the society, those scandals. There's always that brand association to say, company X employee caught in a compromising position. You analyze the story, you look at the story, and you're thinking, okay, this is an individual that was not at work. They were maybe out in this particular city. So where does the company come in? There's always that perception, and there's always that association to say, if Joel is involved in a certain behavior that is unbecoming, my company is dragged in there. So you can't separate your personal brand as well as the brand that you actually represent, especially if you're a member of the executive or you're in marketing or you're in PR. There's always that brand association. So it's critical that every employee projects a positive image of the brand. They watch what they say, they watch what they do, regardless of where they are stationed, whether they are still within company premises, they are outside the borders. There's always that brand association. So it's critical that every staff member is schooled into the essence of how they should behave, because it has got a bearing on the image of the company. Then externally, obviously, you can control the narrative in terms of what you put out there, the positive stories around your brand. But I think for me, what is critical is the internal, where every member is schooled in terms of what does it mean to be a brand ambassador. A lot of companies, is pushed to say, oh, let's engage external brand ambassadors, but the most critical brand ambassador is the staff member. How people perceive them when they interact during office hours and when they interact outside of office hours. So it's critical that we maintain a positive image, both internally and externally.
Okay. Well, you brought in a very important idea of brand ambassadors being the employees, first brand ambassadors, right?
Yes.
But we've seen brand ambassadors who are external, and it seems they know much about the organization more than the employees themselves. So what would be the challenge?
For me, okay, you bring in an interesting scenario. I've always questioned to say, okay, in Zimbabwe, does the brand ambassador concept, the external one, is it really working? I'm yet to see probably companies that will testify and say, because of our brand ambassador, we're able to grow our bottom line. It's a story for another day, and sometimes when you look at maybe external brand ambassadors, you can actually see that someone is just talking about a certain product, but there's no conviction. It's not really believable to say, look, okay, you can actually see that this has been scripted. They're just saying it because obviously there's a reward at the end of the day. But if you look at an internal brand ambassador, this is their day-to-day work. I think for me, it's a matter of changing their mindsets. It's a matter of the company leaders projecting this information to every staff member, emphasizing or hammering in the fact that you are a brand ambassador and you are consuming the company products, and you can be able to go out there and make a difference and project a good image of the brand.
All right, this is the Live Conversations brought to you by the Contact Center Association of Zimbabwe. And like I said during my introduction, today I'm with Mr. Joel Gombera. He is the General Manager Marketing for Doves Holdings, and we are discussing corporate public image. All right, so Joel, one of the roles of public relations or corporate public image is to protect the interests of an organization. I think this is a very difficult task to do, protect, but does it even mean lying at all costs? It's just in the interest of protecting, because we've been seeing organizations protecting their image but at the expense of a customer.
For me, okay, let me look at it broadly. I define customer experience as how do you make your client feel after interacting with your brand. So obviously, imagine if a customer finds out that you've been lying to them all along. how would they feel about your brand? What are they going to tell their peers or their community about your brand? So for me, I believe in the simple adage, the truth will set you free. So when there's a challenge involving a client and in terms of service recovery, for me, the first port of call is to lay out the truth. Be very specific about what transpired, and then work with the client in terms of service recovery. So it's better to be truthful upfront than to take a client through a journey, 2, 3, 4 weeks, only for them to find out that you've been taking them for a ride. Some clients are forgiving if you are truthful from the onset. So it's better than trying to ask for forgiveness after taking them, on a ride, on a false ride for 2, 3 weeks. So for me, I don't believe in lying at all costs or protecting your image at all costs, because it will come to haunt you at a later stage. You might get away with one client, but there'll be another client who probably faced a similar challenge, but the outcome might be different, and it will damage your corporate reputation. So it's critical that you are truthful from the onset, and then you can take it up from there. Yes.
All right. So let's talk about damage control.
Yes.
Customer experience gone wrong.
Yes.
How do you deal with it? How do you deal with corporate public image?
Okay. I would say there's no written formula. You deal with it on a case-by-case basis. You can't say one jacket fits all for all consumers. People have got different backgrounds. People are at various emotional levels. People are at various posts in terms of their journey. So it's a matter of customizing a solution to a particular situation. It's a matter of understanding the pain points of the customer, where they're coming from, how they feel about what is transpired, and giving them a platform to vent out. Some customers might actually, be just looking for a platform to vent out. There are a lot of frustrations that we face, not running away from, the issue at hand, but I believe customers are more reactive when you give them a platform. Because sometimes we are quick to rush with solutions. We think we know what the client wants. We think we know what we need to do to do service recovery. But I think we need to look at it from the eyes or the perspective of the client. Once you understand where they're coming from, then you can be able to work with them in terms of service recovery. You are able to rectify the situation to their satisfaction. And you want them to work with you on that journey in terms of service recovery, rather than you looking at them at the other side of the table and prescribing a solution to say, no, this is how we do things, or this is our policy. No client wants to hear about policy or about your rules. That's for your own internal staff, or that's for the back end. What a client wants is service. And we have, you can't come up with excuses to say, so and so did ABC, they were wrong, and you try to apportion the blame on an individual within the company. Acknowledge the mistake, acknowledge the client's concerns, and then work with them as you rectify the situation.
But you talked about people dealing with different frustrations, people being emotional. Sometimes they just take it up on you. Maybe someone is, a client is not happy at home, and then she comes to your offices and they just vent or something. But employees are also human beings. The customer experience experts, the customer experience representatives, they're also human beings. They also have their frustrations as well. So how do you deal with it?
Okay, obviously you have to develop a thick skin. You can't fight fire with fire. And obviously, if you're in customer experience, you need to separate the issue and the person. The client might be venting out their frustrations. Take those frustrations and put them in a compartment and separate them from the person. It's not a personal attack. So when someone is coming to vent, I should not take the venting as something that is directed to me as an individual. I should learn to isolate that venting from the individual. At the back end of that is the individual and the frustrations, but let's separate their frustrations from them, and don't take it personal and feel like this customer is attacking me. And this Guaro and this, do they know whom they're talking to? I'm also a human being. I've got feelings, I've got frustrations. You have to develop a thick skin and try to empathize with the client, give them a platform. Don't interject as they are venting out. Just be calm. I remember a friend of mine. Our PR manager. His name is Nelson Chuma. A client came in, and obviously there are challenges and everything. You just sat there and listened to the client, smiling. Then after the client was done, he offered them some water. He says, "Do you want some water?" and the client burst out laughing. And after that laughter, they found each other, and they were able to have a decent conversation. So sometimes what someone simply wants is a glass of Coke or a glass of water, and the rest they say will be history. You can have a decent conversation, and before you know it, you have done your service recovery. You have created that rapport with that client. Yes.
All right. So are trainings being done, or do you think trainings are enough for the PR personnel, the marketing people, so that they know what they're supposed to do when dealing with a client?
During our break, we were talking about the CCAZ winter school that took place in Kariba a couple of weeks ago. And one positive that I gleaned from there was the quality of speakers, where they were talking about their life experience. I think what we need to move away from when we have these conferences and training is to have these abstract, theory-based trainings.
Yeah.
But we need to bring in thought leaders or experts that walk the talk.
Yeah.
Someone has gone through the processes, and when they come, they share believable stories because they are gleaning from their personal experience. So in terms of our training, we need to be practical. Sometimes you set up incredible PowerPoint slides, but that are talking to theory and that are abstract, that even the participants cannot follow and cannot relate to. But when I come to a conference and share my journey, share my life, I'm vulnerable. And even as a speaker, or a trainer, I don't need to come up and project a perfect image. I should be able to share where I've gone wrong, or scenarios where I messed up in terms of dealing with customer queries, practical, relatable stories that will be able to make an impact, because they will leave a lasting impression on those that are being trained. And it's easy for them to glean from the positives and avoid the negatives that have been shared by a trainer or a speaker. Yeah.
All right. You are a seasoned marketer. You've experience in the marketing industry for over a decade now.
Yes.
Let's talk about dealing with a malfunctioning product.
Okay.
Yeah. You launch a product.
Yes.
And you think that no, this is just it's perfect, it's gonna be a hit, and then things just go otherwise, and customers are not happy.
Yeah. For me, I think it's taking a strategic retreat and saying, look, calling a spade a spade. We've seen car manufacturers recalling brands and coming up to apologize upfront. When a product is not working, you have done your analysis, you've done your tests, and you see that maybe it was a half-baked product. For me, it's critical for you to really make an announcement and say, look, this is a product that we launched, but we are not happy in terms of the performance. We thought it was going to solve these ABC pain points, but it's not
easy. Is it easy?
It's not easy, but I think it's better than for you to continue shoving a product down the consumer's throat. So it's better to be upfront and take a strategic retreat, go back to the drawing board. I think one of the challenges that we have, even in terms of product development, is we come up with what I call desktop-driven solutions, where we sit in an office and think consumer ABC is going to love this product, but we don't take time to involve our consumers in terms of the product development process, having focus group, talking to them, finding out their preferences, finding out their pain points, and then solving. That's where you have those challenges where sometimes a product is launched into the market and it's not accepted by the market because it's a desktop-driven solution where a couple of individuals in a particular scenario, because they were under pressure to produce a product, maybe before the end of the year, they produce a half-baked product. But I believe in involving the target market in terms of the product formulation process. But when a product goes wrong, it's critical that we own up, we engage those consumers that have been compromised, take remedial action, and then go back to the drawing board, involve them, even those that have been aggrieved. When you are reformulating the product, it's good that you engage them so that you can be able to come up with a better product.
All right. As we come to the end of our program, What would be your last words going forward to ensure that both the customer and the organization are happy?
For me, it's about engagement. Sometimes we are not strategic or we are not deliberate in terms of engaging our stakeholders, our consumers. We should have a deliberate consumer or stakeholder engagement plan. When we formulate our strategies, to say we are going to be having these initiatives where we are going to listen to our customers. It's critical to listen to the voice of the customer. So we need to create platforms where we are not just talking to our clients, but we are having a conversation with our client. It's two-way communication. Let's create omni channels where clients can be able to feedback to us, our social media platforms, walk-in, focus group discussions, various platforms that are at our disposal. So it has to be continuous engagement, not just once-off transaction where we're just expecting consumers to consume our product. And when our consumers speak, we should listen. Let's really listen and not discard their views, because they can make or break our business. Customers right now, some, if you're lucky, can come and give you feedback and say we're not happy about ABC. But the majority of the clients, they fought with their feet. They simply go next door, and you wonder what is happening to your business when the numbers are going down, the bottom line is going down. So it's good to have that continuous engagement with our customers. After all, they say customer is king. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us today on our show.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor, and I enjoyed the discussion.
And thank you for sharing this important information with us. I've learned more.
Thank you.
All right. We've come to the end of the CCAZ live conversations. And today in the studio, I was with Mr. Joel Gombera. He is the General Manager Marketing for Doves Holdings. And we were discussing corporate public image. And as we have heard from him, that the customer is key and there's need for continuous engagement when dealing with your customers. And please, we would like to thank you for continue watching the show. Please continue liking, sharing, commenting. And if you have missed any of our programs, you can even go to our YouTube page, YouTube channel, which is the CCAZ, and you'll get to see more of our live conversations program. That was today's show. I'm your host, Carol Konje. We'll see you next week.